Mm, What's up, everyone? Thank you again for joining us on another episode here on the network YouTube channel. Tonight, we have a very interesting show for you guys. We got Jaleel joining us tonight. He's gonna tell us about his roots and background in coaching basketball and his current Ball Talk TV brand. So I'll go ahead and pass it off to him, and he can introduce himself to everyone.
Hi, I'm Jaleel Sobers from Toronto, Ontario, currently living in London, England, and I've been coaching basketball since 2014 with the team Canada Elite and Triple Balance. And in the UK, I've been coaching Eastside Eagles, U16 and U14 teams. It's my passion, and it's just one of the greatest things that I can do for the community is to coach young kids in basketball.
Awesome, awesome, cool. Awesome. So that being said, let's start off and discuss your origins in basketball. So, I mean, not like even before coaching. So around like what age did you develop a interest and passion for basketball?
The first time I loved basketball was 1998 NBA Kobe Bryant courtside for N64. Uh, I loved that game. And my brother was a basketball player, and he knew all the basketball players on the court, and I was jealous of him. So I just said to myself, I'm going to try to know as much basketball as him. So I just watched it and I just studied it. And the first basketball player I memorized was Latrell Sprewell, the Knicks. And I made a conscious effort to just uh, I'm a serial obsessive, so once I get into something, like I really get into it. And when I got really into basketball, I just never stopped.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool. So, would you say this was an older brother
Yeah,
of
he was an
you?
older brother.
Oh, okay. So, did he like play for like high school or college or anything?
He played for high school, and then he played for high school in Canada, and then he got a scholarship to Central Connecticut State University.
Oh, awesome. Cool, cool. So, speaking of Canada, so I mean, I've never lived in Canada, so I mean, I know they got the Toronto Raptors up there. So,
Right.
what is the basketball scene like in Canada? Is it like super popular, or is it like second to other sports? What's the scene like
Growing
over
up,
there like?
it was it was very popular for me, but there was a point where it started to become super popular, and that was around 2008 when I was like 16. Then more high school kids started to go down to the States to play high school basketball, and then Tristan Thompson and Corey Joseph were drafted, and that's when it just I don't want to say it blew up, but it took on like a different form, and then everyone started to play basketball because of the opportunities that it has. And Steve Nash really made it popular for Canada, for Canadians to play basketball. He had a great influence on it, and you can see it from when he won the MVPs. More kids started to play, they started to like it, they put down the hockey sticks, and they picked up a basketball. So it's very, very, very popular up here. Kids love it.
Awesome, awesome. What about Vince Carter? Did he have a huge impact on the basketball
Yeah,
scene?
Vince Carter saved, in my belief, Vince Carter saved the Toronto Raptors from moving because the Vancouver Grizzlies, we had two basketball teams, but they left, and I believe that it's because they didn't have a star like Vince Carter. So Vince Carter made a lot of Torontonians and the greater Toronto area. He made them love basketball because of everything that he did on the court, and he changed the game up here. He was so popular in Canada everywhere he went, and then he left, fortunately.
Yeah, I went to New Jersey after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. So, I mean, yeah. So you described, how you fell in love with basketball, and you started, really following all the players and stuff. So before you got into coaching, like, did you like play on any basketball teams at all, or were you just playing pickup
Yeah,
at the park? Like, how's
I
that go?
played pickup. I played everywhere I could, and then I joined. I played in middle school. I played in high school, and there was a point in my life where I played basketball maybe 7 days a week for like 2 years. Uh, Wherever I can play, I just found a place to play. Just loved it.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So in the Toronto area, like, are a lot of kids, well, back when you were younger, were a lot of kids like playing pickup ball a lot at the basketball courts, or were more kids playing like soccer or hockey? Like, how popular was pickup ball, back when you were like in middle school, high school?
The people I hung around with, we played basketball, so I don't really know how popular hockey was. I don't know if you can play pickup hockey. There's street hockey, but I don't know if you can play pickup hockey. Soccer wasn't popular whatsoever. I didn't hang around anyone that played soccer, but we loved basketball. There wasn't many courts where I was growing up. There was probably like three, and we just played on them. We played on the school court every day after school. We waited until the kids went home, and we just played there till 8 p.m. every day. So that's what we did with our time.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So, you finished, high school and everything. So, what what event or I mean, I'll let you explain. So, how did you initially get into basketball coaching in the first place?
My brother runs a basketball organization called Canada Elite and Triple Balance up here in Canada, and I asked him if I can coach one of his teams, and he said to ask another coach who coaches one of the younger teams. So I just sent him a Facebook message, and then I asked him if I can coach, and he said, "Sure, come out and coach," because he knows how much I love basketball. So once I asked him, he gave me the opportunity. I was That's how I started coaching.
Okay, so your very first team that you coached, like, how old were the kids?
We coached two teams. So one of the teams was a 10 and under, but we had some 8 year olds. So they're 8, 9, and 10. And the other team that we coached was 14 and under. So 14 and 13 years old.
Oh, okay, so that's pretty much, under like younger than high school. So,
Yeah, they were just entering high school when
oh,
we
okay,
coaching
that's
them.
cool. So, like, as a new first time coach, like, how difficult or easy was it to coach, that age group? Did you have a lot of challenges, or was it kind of easy? Like, can you explain to us, like, how did that go?
It was difficult at first because I'm not a loud person. So the first practice I had where I had to yell and project my voice, I went home with a headache, and that lasted like 3 days because I've never yelled so much in my life. But it was also difficult because there's a lot of nuances in coaching, things that uh, the average viewer might not see, like switches and screens and picks, like just very minute details about how to teach a young person who thinks that they know everything, how to teach them that they don't know everything and that what they're doing is wrong, and to make them do what you want them to do. So that part was difficult, but I think I knew the game of basketball pretty well, so it came pretty easily to me, and I love teaching. So as it was difficult to teach the 14-year-olds, it was very easy for me to coach the 10-year-olds because they were like sponges and they just wanted to learn as much as they could. So it was like two different groups that I had to deal with. So it taught me two different teaching styles and how to speak to people.
Okay, I got you. I got you. So you mentioned the 14-year-olds were more difficult to coach. Like, can you explain? Was it because I thought they knew everything, or So can you explain to us why the 14-year-olds were more of a challenge?
Because the 14-year-olds were more of a challenge because they they were in grade 8, and at their school they're the best basketball players in their school, so they can do whatever they want on the basketball court. But when you come to a rep team, you're not the best player on the court, so we had to teach them to play within a role. So it's difficult when you play after school basketball and you're the best player in your school, so you can take whatever shot you want, and then you come to rep basketball, and then you gotta tell them that you're not starting, and you might not even play that much, but we just need you to go out there and grab 5 rebounds or go out there and do your role. So it was difficult to make them accept that a lesser role than what they were used to for all their lives.
Oh, okay, I see, I see. So how do you like you said, how do you convince someone, let's say, they're the best player at their school, like you said, they can take any shot they want, they got the green light, and they're just I guess the game is just easier for them at their school. They're just better than everyone.
Right.
But when they come, to your team, you know, it just flips completely. So how do you like help that player transition from, being the man at school and now you're kind of, on the bottom and you really got to prove yourself more. So how do you motivate that person and like how do you like, kind of keep them grounded but at the same time you're not like crushing their spirit?
It's very, you got to choose your words very wisely to make sure you don't crush their spirits. Because if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, then it might come off in a way that you didn't intend it to come off. So you just need to tell them that where you are right now is not where you're going to be 5 years from now, and you gotta make sure that what you tell them they don't take to heart and they don't take it personally. So they don't. So if you tell them that they can't dribble, then that doesn't mean that they can't dribble forever. It's like a short period of time. So you just need to encourage them to constantly learn and constantly be open to trying new things on the basketball court. But some players don't take it that well. Some players take it very hard and they feel like you're insulting them or you're picking on them. Sometimes they quit, but the players that don't quit, you can see the improvement in them in school basketball and in rep basketball very clearly. So it's a crapshoot because you win some and you lose some with 14-year-olds, and then you got to deal with their parents as well, who believe the same thing as their kids, but it's just 10 times worse sometimes. Who think that their kid is the greatest thing, and NBA scouts are at games that they're at, so they need to keep playing and playing and playing. But you gotta treat them with respect. You gotta let them know that they're going to improve. They're not done. They're not a finished product yet.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the parents. I want to ask you more about that. So like how is it being a basketball coach of kids, whether it's the 10-year-old team or the 14-year-old team? Like how do you, as a coach, like how do you deal with, I guess, parents that kind of want to do your job from the sidelines and they think they can do your job better than you? So how does that go? How do you deal with all that?
I was fortunate to coach under a very talented and smart head coach, Jay McNeely. So he used to have no parents at practice, or parents would have to sit outside of the gym at practice because usually when kids fall, they look at their parents and then they look at the coach, and sometimes the parents want to say something, but if they're outside the gym, then they can't say anything. So that's a method that I use in London and that I use in Canada. Um, but parents, there's no difference between the 10-year-olds and the 14-year-old parents. It's just that the 14-year-old parents think that their kids have a shot at the NBA, when a 10-year-old's parents probably just believe that their kid has a shot at college basketball. But some parents just do it because they just want their kids in after school programs. Those parents are are nice parents to deal with. But the parents who are rowdy and they yell at everybody on the court, coaches, the refs, and the players. I dealt with a lot of those parents, and they're the worst kinds of people that you can deal with. But you just gotta say, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'll take it into consideration. That's what the line I use.
Oh, okay, I see. So let's say, a parent, they're like livid at you and they're like, oh, you gotta put my kid in the game, blah, blah, blah. So usually, like, when you use that line, I'll take that into consideration. Does that usually, like, shut them up? Or, like, do you have to say something else if, a
It
parent gets too out
sometimes
of
it
line?
shuts them up, but sometimes they want their kid in the game when they say they want their kid in the game. So you just got to tell them that uh, it's youth basketball. So usually, if it's under 10s, then their kid's definitely going to play. But if it's under 14s and the stakes are a little bit more serious, then their kid will play, but their kid won't play as much as they want. So you just got to tell them that your, your son or your daughter is going to get into the game. You just got to be patient. It will eventually happen. Just like how you tell the kids. And sometimes the kid doesn't even want to get into the game. You can just see it on their face that they want no part of this game. They're not emotionally into it, so they don't want to play. But their parents are yelling for them to play.
Oh, okay. I see, I see. That's a interesting thing you said. So how do you, like you said, let's say you got a kid that, is on your team in your program. Maybe they're just not totally invested in it because maybe they're just there because their parents are making them be there.
Right.
So, like, is there any way to kind of tap into that kid's mind and try and get them to be more in tune with the program? Or do you feel like maybe that kid who doesn't really want to be there, do you feel like that kid's better off just not being on the team? So how would you handle that?
Every kid is different, so I would. It depends on the kid because dead skin sheds. So if a kid doesn't want to be there, then eventually uh, they will stop showing up. So you won't have to convince them to be there. Because the worst thing that you can do is, or one of the worst things that you can do, is to convince somebody who doesn't want to be in a situation that they should be in a situation while you're telling other kids that they should stay in a situation, because it's like you're taking away time from those other kids to deal with this one kid who just doesn't want to be, who probably shouldn't be there either, who probably should be doing something else that they enjoy. But their parents want them to be the next Andrew Wiggins, so they're playing basketball. Um, there's not much that you can do to convince somebody to do something that they don't want to do, especially a 14-year-old, and especially a 10-year-old, because they'll probably just cry. A lot of them cry.
Oh, okay. I see, I see. So in your brother's program, so like how, I mean, I don't know, but like how I guess how prominent is that program in Canada? Are a lot of those players, do a lot of them end up growing up and getting into like NCAA D1 programs? Like, can you kind of describe the I guess for
Yeah,
lack, I don't know the term, like the quote unquote success rate of your program?
right. So it's called Canada Elite, and it's a few years old. So the first kids of the program, or the first high school kids of the program, are in their junior year now, or their senior year of college now. So they've had one NBA drafted player, or two NBA drafted players, Justin Jackson, who went to Maryland, and Don Maker, who got drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks. He played for Canada Elite for a short time when he was in Canada, and we recently, or they're going to have another drafted player, Nikhil Alexander Walker, who went to Virginia Tech. Um, but there's loads of D1 players. Another D1 player just signed a letter of intent to Texas A&M, Cassius McNeely. Uh, So there are loads of D1 players, and it's going to be a few NBA players in a few years if everything works out well.
Oh wow. So those guys you mentioned, like Thon Maker and Justin Jackson, like did you get to interact with them like personally when they were in the program?
I never interacted with Thon Maker. I interacted with Justin Jackson. Thon Maker was only in the program for a few months, and he was on an older team. And I only interacted with Justin Jackson a few times because he was also on an older team. Um, he was on an older team when I was coaching the under 14 team. So our practices were never together, and our games were never together. So when I did see him, it was for a very short time.
Oh, okay, I see. So
But
I mean,
Casper
I know you're.
McNeely,
Mhm.
he's a very talented player who signed at Texas A&M, and he's going to be very good next year in the SEC.
Oh, that's awesome. So I mean, I know you got, you're coaching the younger kids, but like from a really young age, like on your 10-year-old and 14-year-old teams, can you kind of tell like if some of your players like can you tell if they're like D1 potential from that early age? Like, is there a way to tell, or you're not gonna know till they get, into the older teams?
The 10-year-olds is harder to tell if they're Division One bound because they haven't had their growth spurts yet, or they haven't went through puberty, and also they just haven't played the game long enough to know if they even like the game of basketball. Some of them, uh, some of them that I coach probably might not go Division One, but they might play college basketball in Canada. And the under 14 teams, you can tell when you watch the games who's going to be the top players 4 and 5 years from now, and who's going to get a scholarship and who's not going to get a scholarship. Because before they get their growth spurt, it's a feel for the game that they have, and you can just see that more than um, more than some other players.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So, I mean, let's say you got a kid on your team, on your 14-year-old team, like you watch him at games, practices and stuff, and you can tell like he has a really great shot of, being a really good D1 player. Like, do you tell the kid at that age, like, you're good enough to be D1? Or do you like wait till later so you don't kind of give them a big ego from the jump?
Me personally, I would never do that, and I was taught by Jay McNeely to never tell a kid that they're going Division One or that they have a shot at going Division One because uh, they might misconstrue it with "I'm going Division One. There's no need to do anything else." So I don't tell players. I never tell players. I tell players that they're good or they have a chance to be really good. But I'll never tell a player you can go Division One or you're going Division because you also don't know. They might get a girl pregnant and not go Division One.
Hmm.
The future is tricky.
Yeah, I feel you. So, so when do you, like, when would a coach tell them, like, not until like junior or senior year of high school?
Uh, if they're really talented, then they'll know without the coach having to tell them. But
Hmm.
they probably don't get their first offer until they're like 15 or 16 years old, or even 17 for that matter. But a lot of them are really good at 14, and then they fall off at 16 or 17 because the growth spurt that you anticipated them to have just didn't happen, or other players that they were better than their entire lives just caught up with them. So their skills are now on an even playing field. So they'll find out if they're Division One bound by how they play and by who's talking about them in today's world.
Okay, I see. So speaking of that, that's real interesting. So how important are growth spurts? Like, does that like make or break? Let's say you got two really talented players. one has a growth spurt, one doesn't have a growth spurt. Is that like a make or break thing for a player to, be a really good D1 player? Like, how do you see that?
It it's not a make or break, because it all depends on the kid. If the kid wants to work hard enough to get recruited, but a growth spurt, say if two players are both 6'1" at 14 years old, and then
Mhm.
one of them has a growth spurt, and then he becomes like 6'8", and the other one stays at 6'1", then the 6'8" player can do everything the 6'1" player can do, but now he's in a 6'8" body, so now he's more sought after because he has those skills that the 6'1" player has. But the 6'1" player can get recruited and be successful, but it's more difficult for you when you're shorter, when you're being recruited, because you have to be talented, you have to be really good.
I see. So the 6'1" guy, I mean, there's a ton of 6'1" people just in general. So the 6'1" guy, he's really got to stand out to get recognition versus the 6'8" guy. I
Yeah,
mean, he
because if
may,
the
he's just, because he's 6'8", like you can't teach, height.
yeah if the 6'8" guy decides to play the same position as the 6'1" guy, and the 6'1" guy or the 6'8" guy can do everything the 6'1" guy can do, and a college scout sees that, then I'm pretty sure that the scout, if they had common sense, would choose the 6'8" guy because he can do everything similar.
Okay, I see. So when it comes to scouts like coming to the games and trying to talk to players, like is there like some type of rules or protocol when it comes to like colleges trying to talk to your players?
There's a certain time. There's a live period where they're allowed to talk to players, and I think that's from April to July. It's a certain period of a few months where they're allowed to talk to players, and when they're not allowed to talk to players, like they're not allowed to talk to players whatsoever. They're not allowed to contact players or anything like that. But it obviously happens because there's text messaging and there's Instagram and Twitter and everything that you can just contact players on. And players don't want to get in trouble, so they hide themselves. So there's rules that NCAA coaches have to follow, but as you know, they don't follow those rules. Some do, but some don't.
I see, I see. So I mean, since you have firsthand experience, of course with the basketball teams and scouts, college scouts and all that. So if you were to give like a rough percentage, like how many people are really following the rules? Like what percentage, actually follow the rules versus the percentage that, they're
But
clearly breaking
cheating,
the rules. Yeah.
um, I would say I might be wrong, but 10% is following the rules. And when I say following the rules, like they're following the rules as they're written. They're not paying players. They're not talking to players when they're not supposed to. Um, but some of the programs, they pay players. They pay programs. They they find ways around to pay players. You hear a lot of stories. A lot of stories are ridiculous.
Oh wow. So yeah, I guess I mean for me, from outside perspective, and just I guess the general public kind of sees it that way. So I guess hearing it from you, I guess it's pretty perception and reality is a lot more closely related than people might think. Uh, Interesting. So yeah, so can you let's shift gears now. Can you talk about what was it like when you became the first time you became a head coach? So like, how was that transition from being an assistant to now you're the main guy, like you're the man now.
It was it was a bit scary the first time when there's nobody beside you. Because I didn't have an assistant when I was a head coach, so it was just me. So I had to plan practices by myself. Um, but a lot of the practices that I did was what I learned when I was an assistant. So I would still run the same types of practices um, as a head coach that we used to do as an assistant coach. But it's a learning curve because you got to realize that how you speak to players as an assistant is now different than how you speak to them as a head coach. Like you can be a lot more friendly with players as an assistant coach, and you can tell them that um, you can listen and talk to them more certain players one on one. But as a head coach, you can't really do that. You need to speak generally to everybody. When the assistant coach, you don't have to do that.
Okay, I see. Is that because as a head coach, like you're like the final say for everything? So it's
Yeah,
kind of like everyone has to like know that there's no like as an assistant, you're like a barrier between the player and the head, but now you're the head, so it's like you gotta, I guess, keep a level. You gotta kind of put yourself on a pedestal more so you can get more respect.
yeah,
Would you say that?
yeah. You have to. You can't. You have to have a certain image and a certain perception as a head coach, or else your players won't respect you, and you need to keep it so that it remains a standard throughout your season. But as an assistant coach, you're more malleable to how players feel. How they feel is more important to you. So you can ask them, how do you feel about this? Some head coaches do that, but I never did that as a head coach. As an assistant, I did that more. So
Okay, I see. So how would you compare like when you talk versus when you were a head coach versus when you were an assistant coach? Do you feel like players responded to you more as an assistant, or did players respond to you more as a head coach? Like, in which
um,
position do you feel like you made a bigger impact?
I think I made a bigger impact on the game as a head coach more so than an assistant coach because it was I was able to show my personality more as a head coach, but because I was also an assistant coach, I was able to use what I learned as an assistant coach, where I have to speak to people differently, uh, where you can say certain things to certain players. I learned that as an assistant coach, so I think I did a good thing by becoming an assistant coach first and then becoming a head coach because the skills I learned as an assistant helped me as a head coach, so I made more of an impact as a head coach.
Oh, okay, I got you. I got you. So, can you explain to the people? So, I guess, when you jump from assistant coach to head coach, what are the additional responsibilities that come with being a head coach?
You have to run practice by yourself uh, or with an assistant if you have an assistant coach. You have to plan practices. You have to draw up all the plays that you're going to use. You need to have a culture. You need to set a culture for your team so they have to follow it. Um, institute rules. Make sure people follow the rules. Um, I had to buy my own equipment as a head coach so that the players can use it. Um, pennies, cones, basketballs, so that they can use it. Um, but as an assistant, I came into all that, so all that was already set. But as a head coach, I had to set all of it myself in the vision that I wanted my players in the way I want my players to be.
Okay, I see. So as a head coach, under Canada Elite, just under the big, I mean, there's the big umbrella of Canada Elite, and you're a head coach for one of the
I
teams.
was an
So,
assistant coach for Canada League. I was the
oh,
head coach for Eastside Eagles in London.
oh, my bad. So,
So two different countries and
uh-huh.
two different totally different cultures and how they view basketball in both countries,
Oh,
which
oh,
was
okay. I see. Oh, okay. So, actually, speaking of that, I'm glad you mentioned that. So, how do the kids in England, how like what's the differences of the basketball culture in Canada compared to England?
um, there's a few huge major differences. The kids' hair in London or in England or the UK, they start a lot later in basketball. So sometimes you'll get a kid and would never have played and he's like 15 or 14 and it's his first time playing basketball. And in Canada, like we run small ball program, so they start basketball at like 4 or 5. So they're so the drills I had to do with 8-year-olds, I had to do with 14 and 15-year-olds in the UK. Also, parents just don't care about basketball here. So sometimes you got to convince parents to let their kids play, or sometimes you got to convince parents to come see their kids play. Sometimes they don't want to come see their kids play. Uh, School is huge over here, so kids will miss practice to study, which was weird to me, which I never experienced before. Like you hear that the kids are supposed to miss practice to school first and everything, but they see basketball as something that you do to get where you want to go. But people in the UK see basketball as something that you do in the meantime while you're trying to get to where you're going. So
Uh,
it's two totally different cultures.
oh wow, interesting. I did not know that. So, like when you're coaching in London, is it safe to say, do you have to deal with like less intrusive parents on your when you coached in
Yeah,
London?
I coached there for like 2 or 3 years, and I've coached the same kids, and I probably met some of their parents once or twice. Their parents never came to away games, to home games. Uh, they didn't come to any of the practices to pick up their kids, drop off their kids. It was just the kids got there on their own, and then the kids go home and tell their parents how they did, and that's what they did. The parents had no interest whatsoever of seeing their kids play basketball.
So, like, as a coach, like, is that a good thing for you because you don't have to deal with, parents trying to tell you how to do your job? Like, how do you feel about that as a coach? That the
It's a
parents they don't care as much about basketball in London.
it's a it's a gift and a curse because it's a gift because you can run practice and have nobody tell you that you're running it, that you should run it the way that they want to run it. But it's also a curse because the kids are improving and you want the parents to see that their kids are improving, and parents will never see that their kids are improving because they'll never come to the games. So it's heartbreaking sometimes because the kids are talented and they work so hard, and the parents just never know. Parents are never aware of it.
Oh wow, I see. So, in London, so have you had, any of your really talented players, like do they go on to play college ball in the UK or do they go to the US to play college ball or are they just like really talented but they don't play basketball like in college or anything?
They're they're too young now to play college basketball, but um, it's a weird system over here because you play high school basketball, which is a terrible high school system of basketball, that they have over here. And then they go on to sixth form college. And their sixth form college might not have a basketball team because they don't have a basketball coach, because they don't have a basketball court in their school. So you might get them for the final 2 years, and like that's the last time in their life that they might ever play basketball.
Oh, okay, I see. Like, as when you coached out there, like, do you feel like there's a lot of like untapped talent over there? Do you feel like if there was like a bigger, more popular basketball culture in London, that a lot of the kids over there could really have a chance to succeed at D1 and even make it to the league in the States? Or do you feel like the talent pool isn't as good as in Canada?
I feel like the the talent pool over here is bigger, but the the skills the same. They're very skilled over here, and they're just as athletic, but they're not as no, I take that back. They're not as skilled, but they're just as athletic, and they don't have the coaching or the teaching that um, certain players over here have. Well, players over here just have a head start. That's what makes them better. But if they got the same head start as Canadian kids or American kids, then there'll be more kids from the UK going to Division One.
Oh, okay, I see. So basically, I'm hearing is that like really the only thing holding back a lot of UK/London players from making it to NCAA Division One and the NBA is just they're just getting it's just like the culture over there. They're getting a really late start and they don't have the same access to coaches and
Yeah,
resources and stuff as compared to across the Atlantic.
yeah. So that's it. That's it exactly. They, it's not a culture over here like football is. So they will never get that get to that point where kids from different countries get to. People just don't care about basketball. There's some schools over here without a basketball court. So once you go into a school um, and you see the basket and you see the gym, that there's no nets, which was so strange to me. I've never seen that before.
Oh, okay, I see, I see. All right, so we're at about 40 minutes now, so I want to shift gears now to into so about your we talked about this before we broadcasted live about your Ball Talk TV platform. So can you I guess give a brief not info, a brief intro into what Ball Talk TV is all about and what's your vision for Ball Talk TV?
So Ball Talk TV is currently an Instagram page. Uh, I'm going to make it a YouTube page where I interview. Well, I have a few interviews. Um, interview influential people in basketball that are changing the culture of basketball. People who run camps, people who run teams, organizations, coaches, players, those types of people who who just want to say, and I just, who just want to say their opinion about basketball's culture today and their perspective on it. So what I do is I just sit down with them and I just talk to them, like how you and I are doing right now, and I just get their opinions on different basketball issues.
Okay, that's cool. So is there like a end goal for your channel, or do you just wanna just have great influential people sit down like we're doing now, and you just want to get that knowledge and the information just out into the world to influence people?
I want to interview Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's if I could get him, then I would consider everything success. That's my ultimate end game.
Oh, awesome. Is there a certain reason why it's Kareem?
He survives leukemia, and I survived leukemia as well. And he's just my all-time favorite basketball player. I think he's the greatest player ever.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know Kareem had leukemia. I had no
That,
idea.
yeah, he survived. Thank God.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely up there for sure. I mean, me personally, I think Michael Jordan is because I grew up Bulls fan, and I'm not mad at Kareem though. Kareem has, I watched a documentary about him, and he is man, I'm not mad at people that think he's the GOAT. Like he is extremely accomplished
Who do you think
over
is the
a
best
long
player
time.
in the NBA now?
Now, oh, it's a tough question. Deep down, I would still say LeBron deep down, even though he's on the decline now. But I
You're in
think,
Houston, so do you like Harden?
I like him. I like him a lot. I think he is amazing. But I'm not. If I'm being completely honest, completely unbiased, I cannot give Harden the number one spot currently. I don't even like LeBron at all. Like I've never really liked him, but just being completely objective, he's been the best player in the league for a long time now, but I think his time is ending. His time as the top guy right now is ending very, very quickly. And
Unfortunately, he's ending it on my favorite team, the Lakers. I'm not too happy about
so
actually.
who's your number one guy currently right now?
Um, I'd probably say I would say LeBron James, but I might also say Stephen Curry. I think Stephen Curry can probably be the best player in the world if he wants to be on any given night.
Yeah, I can see that. 'Cause, he is pretty much 99% of people agree that he's already, the greatest shooter in league history.
Yeah.
So, most people would say that. But anyway, so I don't want to get off into a debate of basketball. Huge. That can be another show. But oh, that's cool, man. So yeah, that'll be awesome if you can get Kareem on your Ball Talk TV. That'll be
It's a
epic.
few years from now, I believe, but I would love to get him on one day.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. So yeah, so we're at about 45 minutes now. So I want to ask you, I ask this question to everyone that I've had on the show so far. So, you've been, like you said, assistant coach and head coach. So let's say, there's a younger person out there, they want to kind of follow in your footsteps, and accomplish and do what, you've been doing. So, like, what would you tell that person to, give them a leg up to, give them, I guess, great advice that, you wish you had when you were first starting out?
To shoot your shot, because just ask, always ask for everything that you want, because somebody will say yes, even if you're afraid to ask. Um, Most of the time, people don't like saying no, so they'll say yes out of fear of saying no. So if you can get people to just say yes to things, uh, then be you can make it very far in basketball. They'll probably say that they don't have time or try this person, but the chances of them just saying flat out no are low. So just ask them.
Oh, okay. Yes, great point. Great point. So, would you say, like, if someone that's never coached before, do you feel like, do you have to, like, be this, outgoing, extroverted, gregarious type of person to be a great coach? Or do you feel like you can be more like introverted or I guess less loud for lack of a better term, like, or do you feel like any personality type can succeed as a coach as long as you're maximizing, your own strengths and your own personality?
I think any personality type can succeed as a coach, um, but you have to be open to talking to people. You have to be open to teaching people and calling people out on their faults. So if you have a shy personality type where you don't want to ruffle any feathers, then your limit as a coach will be reached very fast, depending on the age group or skill level. But if you can be more outgoing in a way that you can communicate with people effectively, then you will go further as a coach than somebody who doesn't have that skill.
Oh, okay, I see. So, do you feel like, regardless of your personality type, as long as you have strong communication skills, not necessarily like communication, it doesn't mean that, oh, just be loud and that's it. Like, it's about having, I
You have to
guess,
have empathy and you have to
yeah,
be an
yeah.
effective communicator. So
Hmm.
yelling won't work. You need to yell with a purpose instead of just yelling to yell. That doesn't work.
Oh, okay, I see. So, even if you're not the most, I guess, life of the party type of person, as long as, you have your communication skills on point, and then you should be fine in the long run.
Right.
Okay, cool, cool. What else did I want to ask you? So, like, what are your? I mean, if you don't mind sharing, of course. What are your kind of your long-term, like, grand plans for your coaching career? Like, do you wanna like, how far do you want to go with coaching, basically?
I want to teach as many kids basketball as I can. Um, so at any level that I can teach them at, I, I coach. I just want to teach as many kids basketball. So how far I go is dependent on how much certain things I care about matter to me. So I'm not in it for the money because I've never gotten paid to coach basketball. But if I get paid to coach basketball one day, that'll be a great day. Um, but I'll do it as long as I like the game of basketball, which I assume is forever. So I'm not working towards something in coaching. I'm just doing it because I like to see the game improve.
Oh, okay, I see. So, would you say your main focus is like number one, like player development, try to develop as many kids as you can,
Yeah,
and
and give
then
kids opportunities to make it out of the situation that they're in and bring a spotlight to their talents. That's something that I want to do.
okay, that's cool. So, from a coach's perspective, where do you? I mean, right now, I mean, we can see, the game of basketball is really focused on, I guess, like spacing and 3-point shooting and all that, and more like quote unquote small ball. So,
Right.
like, where do you see the game going in, like, maybe 10 years from now? Like, do you feel like it's still gonna be how it is now? Like, how do you see things going?
I think it's an outside inside game now, but I think 10 years from now it's going to be uh, inside outside game because I believe that there's going to be one player in the future who's going to be so dominant that everything needs to change so that it's a copycat league basketball. So once one player succeeds, then everybody tries to do what that one team who succeeded did. You can see it with LeBron James. You see it with Allen Iverson. um, so if one player comes into the NBA who's dominant in the paint, like Shaq, like a 2020 version of Shaq, then everybody's going to try to find the next Shaq. Everybody's going to have to find players to stop the new 2020 Shaq. So everything's going to be different. So I think that's going to happen in the next 10 years. Shooting, pace, and space, revolution, I think that'll be done.
Oh wow, interesting. So yeah, your prediction is there's gonna be a next in dominant inside force similar to Shaq, and it'll kind
Yeah,
of revert back to like late '90s, early 2000s.
yeah, because people will find players. If somebody sees somebody succeeding at doing something, then they're going to train their young players to do that as well. They're going to look for the newest young player who's like 7'1", 315 pounds to play like how the best player in the NBA is playing. And that's what always happens. Coaches at a youth level coach like they try to find who the best version of the NBA player is at their level.
Oh, okay, I got you. So like right now, 2019, or even the past few years, like on the youth level, like everyone's, would you say like everyone's trying to coach their team and have their team led by someone
Shooting.
that plays like Steph Curry
Yeah, because he's
or
successful right now.
yeah. Oh, okay.
And Kevin Durant. A long, like in the next few years, long athletic guys who can shoot will come into the league because that's how Kevin Durant played. And then maybe in like 5 or 6 years, we might see more like short shooters like Trey Young come into the league because they watch Steph Curry play. Um, but a few years from now, you might see uh, players like Giannis who just dunk on everybody, who's big, athletic, and who's dominant in the paint come into the league. Because Giannis might be the best player for the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, looks like it. Yeah, most likely, yeah, for sure. But what about do you feel like Michael Jordan, do you feel like there's ever gonna be I mean, we had Kobe, but Kobe's out of the league now. But do you feel like there'll ever be like a next MJ type player again, or do you feel like that like his I guess his build and style of play is like done, like obsolete?
I think his, I don't think his play is obsolete. I think his play was so um, dominant that it can't be replicated by somebody that size. He was very talented at scoring. He was very talented at offense and defense. And I don't think that in today's game somebody would work as hard on defense as they do on offense. Because you hear it a lot. Like you hear people say, uh, he's not guarding the best player on his team because he needs to conserve his energy offense. So that's automatically telling you that he can never be a two-way, the best two-way player he can be, because people are already giving him an excuse for why he can't perform well on defense. So for that reason, I think that there'll never be somebody close to um, how dominant Michael Jordan was on the field.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of sad if you think about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
yeah, but yeah, we just hit about an hour now. So before we go, I do everyone thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And if you're not with us live, thank you for watching the restream. And myself, and on behalf of all the listeners, I want to thank you personally, Jaleel, for taking time out of your day, your busy schedule. I know it's really late there too, for staying up with us and sharing your story and your knowledge with us and telling us about your upcoming blog talk. Sorry, not blog talk, ball talk TV. And I look forward. I'll definitely whenever you get your channel up, I will definitely subscribe to that and support the movement for sure.
Thank you.
But but yeah, thank you, man. And do you have like I should have asked you this before, but do you have like an email or anything that if anyone has any questions for you, that they
You
can reach
can
out to you?
DM or follow me on Instagram at Jaleel Sobers, JALEELSOBERS.
All right, awesome. And excuse me, my bad. I'll in the after this video is done, in the description box below, I'm gonna add that for you guys, so you guys can easily copy and paste that if you want to reach out to Jaleel and ask him any questions if you're an aspiring coach. So that'll do it for tonight, guys. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.